real estate, it's one of those things where the more you're in it, the more you are best able to guide your clients. If I'm showing different buyers throughout the week and I'm seeing what these markets are doing in multiple offers, I can tell my client, okay, I know this home, it's going to sell quickly. From the very beginning, then our offer is able to be strong. You don't have as much back and forth then. If you set expectations and you're upfront, okay, this is how the market is, we'll work together so that you're doing what you feel is comfortable, then people know from the very beginning. And a lot of times buyers are like, okay, yeah.
Thank you so much for being here, Kristine. We don't know each other, right? We haven't met, but the reason why we're having this conversation is because I recently asked the finance department to run me a report of all the agents in Coldwell Banker that tripled their business last year. And did you know that you increased your business 294% last year?
I did, yeah. My manager told me.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I wanted to meet you so I could say, first of all, congratulations. Um, that's really exciting. And second of all, the most inspiring thing for people in the organization is to hear from people like you that are achieving that kind of growth. And they would want me to ask you, like, how did you do it? So how'd you do it?
Yeah, so a little bit of a backstory about me. I grew up in and around the real estate industry. I feel like ever since I was young, I would see those MLS books or hear about those MLS books and the way that things were kind of done then. And so I ended up getting into real estate. I work with my mom. So it really was a team effort and a lot of hard work. Like I know a lot of people, the last couple of years have definitely been different in real estate. So I've never been afraid of hard work and very determined, and an emphasis too on client service, marketing. I tell clients I'm not a very salesy person. And so I really focus on doing what's best for the client and treating transactions like they're our own, really.
That's awesome. And so we have something in common because I grew up in the business also. My mom was a real estate agent, became a broker, and I ended up going in the business through that relationship. But so, how young were you when you were first exposed? You said MLS book, so I know it was a while ago. Like, well, you as a kid, were you watching this?
Oh, yeah. So my mom's been in the business 44 years. So well
Okay.
before I was even born. But I remember being 4 years old in the Coldwell Banker office. I thought it
That's
was
funny.
so cool to go to work with my mom and see all the agents. And it was very different then because more people worked daily in the office. So
Right.
yeah, at a very young age. I remember like open houses and like new construction properties. Yeah, everything. Just having that exposure at a very young age, I think helped a lot.
It's funny. It helped me too because, like, one of the things that I think about when you were just talking about the open houses, you had a balloon tank in the office, so you guys can make balloons. You could make helium balloons on demand, right? I remember bringing, when things went well, because I would tag along too, and she'd be in there doing whatever, making copies. And sometimes when I was especially good, I'd get, a handful of balloons, and I'd come back to the neighborhood, and I'd be giving them out to people, and it was people just couldn't believe that we actually had our own balloon tank in the office. But I also experienced some things that kind of were formative for me in terms of understanding the business, which is I remember there was an example of a woman crying in the conference room, and I was a little kid, and I see somebody crying. I'm like, kids don't see adults cry very often, right? So I remember being pretty unsettled by that and asking my mom, saying, "There's a lady crying in there. What's going on?" She said, "Oh, she just bought a house. She's fine. Don't worry about her." And I'm like, "Well, did she not like the house? Like, was it something wrong with it?" And she explained to me at some point, probably on the way home, that no, it's just a big day. Like she's crying because like she's been dreaming about this, but now it actually happened. So the tears of joy, but it didn't look like tears of joy. It looked like tears of sadness. And she said something along the lines, and this is a composite of a lot of experiences that I had, but I learned that what happens in that office is heavy stuff,
Mhm.
right? Like what you find yourself in the middle of all the time is very heavy stuff for those customers, right? They're even if it's an aspirational happy day, it's still like my kids slept in those bedrooms for 9 years. Now they're going to sleep in these bedrooms, and I'm freaked out somehow over that whole, unsettling the family and everything else. Um, so I get the emotional the stress that you absorb, put it that way, from your customers, right? People don't always understand that that's one of the main reasons why you're so valuable to them is that they're whacked out right now, and having somebody who's goes through this all the time, understands the process, is going to help them avoid the pitfalls. Do you get a rise out of that? Do you have that kind of relationship with your customers?
Yeah, so a lot of our clients, you are more than just the real estate professional. A lot of times they look at you as kind of a guidance counselor, and sometimes, you know, therapy for some people, and helping people with what a lot of times is the biggest purchase of their lives. And so yeah, I truly care. I'm by nature just a very caring person. So for me, I'm not one to ever talk about numbers like publicly, volume, because to me it's about each person and the transaction, which it's their own journey. I'm again kind of going back to like not being salesy. I'm not all about like we did this volume this month or this year.
Right,
Each
right.
person, it's their transaction, and I look at it that way. So definitely it's more than just purchasing a house or selling a house. And I try to create relationships with my client, and a lot of clients become friends, and I still talk to, and they check in with me, and they ask me various questions or ways to kind of help, suggestions with their home and things like that. So it's something that I value, and I think it's really important in our
That's
business.
cool. I like what you said about guidance counselor. I had not used. I'd heard counselor. I'd heard psychologist. I've heard a lot of those, but I never heard somebody refer to as a guidance counselor. That's actually pretty darn good. Like that's something important in somebody's life that you're there and you're guiding them. Our North Star logo is all about guiding people to places that where they want to go. So that's great. You mentioned marketing. You mentioned like technique wise. If you were going to share, there are going to be people just like you across the organization who will watch this, and they're going to be eager to hear like whatever specifics you're willing to share about what you did tangibly that caused your business to blow up like that.
Well, my background is in actually media. I worked for a film and TV studio. My background's in marketing. So naturally, I love anything having to do with marketing.
Okay.
And so that's part of it with sellers is a lot of sellers are drawn to the marketing we offer. Along those same lines, for me, I think it's important for newer agents or even experienced agents that are kind of looking to pivot, maybe still pivoting from the last couple of years, is having the processes in place. I heard someone say that promises don't sell homes, processes do.
Okay.
And I think that that's really important because someone can say that they're going to do something, but is it going to be done? Is it going to be efficient? And I think you could work hard, but you also have to work smart and efficiently. And that's something that I've done and we've done every year, really been in being in business. I've been licensed 11 years now, in real estate officially 13. And that's something every year, just being open to how things can be done differently in the best interest of the client, for your business, etc. So I would say setting up processes. That's really, if I could pinpoint to one other thing that has changed in the last year or two, it's having that streamlined so that if you're showing, like I've had days where I'm showing 4 different clients from one day it was 9 in the morning and I'm writing an offer till 1 in the morning, and having everything set up because you can only sometimes do so much, but if you have the systems in place, everything goes super smoothly and no one's waiting, hanging for an answer or waiting for something. You have that all kind of under
Right.
control.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, it's like consistency and increasing your production capacity, right? So if you've got the ability to earn people's trust quickly because of how you communicate with them and how they feel when they're around you, you want to be doing that all day. And having the processes and team and so forth. Are there any technologies that you'd recommend that helped you accomplish the putting the processes down and blueprinting them and then repeating them?
Yeah, so I think CRMs are very important. I'm a fan of Follow Up Boss. I think that's if someone, is new in the business, that's the one thing they have to really know, and different CRMs are going to work for different needs and different people. But I would say next to that would be a project management software. Asana,
Okay. Okay.
Monday.com, one of those where you could have the different tasks. I have different like project management software for buyers and sellers, for the marketing we
Okay.
do. And I track all of
So
that.
your background in marketing, where there's a gazillion details that goes into every project, and they're all dependent on something else. So that's good. So it's this is a lot of fun for me because I sent that email out to you and a few dozen other people, actually 85 other people. I picked the people in our region, central time zone, that tripled their business last year, and but went from good numbers to great numbers. Right? They didn't go from 5,000 to 15,000. It was substantial, and then just really taking off. And not many of them talk about the systems and the project management. So that's good. I almost, not almost, every single time I have a conversation with an agent who's having that breakout success, there's always something that somebody else hasn't talked about yet, which is what makes this gratifying, and which is why I think people are starting to watch these and share them around, because they're picking up. It's no fun to hear from me or somebody in leadership, management, training, any place else telling you to systematize, because it's not easy, right? I mean, the amount of time it takes to go, you must have had a lot of days where it's like, let me just get right on a sticky note and that'll be fine for today. And next week I'll work on systematizing my business. But that will hinder your production capacity until you have it kind of on the skid, on tracks like that. Um, from a marketing standpoint, because you're an expert and you come from that background, what are you finding that's working today?
I guess I could tell you what I see that is happening a lot that I don't think is working for agents. I can
Okay.
start with that, I guess. It's anything like happy holidays, happy new year. If you're thinking of buying or selling, let me know. Making everything salesy, and that's not how it works. That's not how I suggest marketing. I think if someone is a good person with good intentions and offering value, because a lot of buyers and sellers, they don't want to be bombarded every day with something salesy. And I don't
Right.
know if you're the same way, but I get all these sales calls every day, and they're just trying to sell something, and it gets kind of draining for some people. And some people have the robocall apps on their phone because of that, and different things. So not bombarding people with salesy things any more than what they already are, I think, is important. And providing information and items of value, I really feel is imperative, because some people don't know. And I think there's a lot of people that have an interest in real estate, but may not necessarily be in it day in and day out like we are, and they don't know. Like, I remember I was going through the line at a coffee shop, and I don't know how we started talking about real estate. And he's like, it's a terrible time to buy, isn't it? And this was a couple years ago. And I'm like, no, it's actually, mortgage rates are low. And I had someone say, assume it was a terrible time to sell last year. So
Really.
people, you sometimes, I think sometimes people hear what they want to hear, or sometimes get misinformation. So if you can tell people how the market is, and specifically how their local market is, and that's something that I tell prospective clients, is our local Chicagoland market has many submarkets within it.
Right.
It's not the same as some coastal communities, or what you hear is happening in the South as far as demand and supply and demand. So telling people, real estate really
That's
is
great. That's
local.
great.
It's not just national.
Yeah, and you're right, because when you're absolutely right that there's a lot of people in this industry that you can tell went to the same seminar on social media or signed up for a program that gives them content, but it's not. It's just a placeholder for something valuable someday. It's a sometimes they appear to be postcards. They're graphic images that say something on them, but that's the same thing that you get in your mailbox every day. That goes straight from mailbox to trash can. Um, that it gives you the opportunity. What I love about digital media, social media, is it gives you an opportunity to have a conversation, even if it's only one way. But if you treat it like you're having a conversation with somebody where on their end, they might actually be responding. They don't have to say anything, but if they receive what you're giving them, like when CNBC has an article about the housing bubble that's impending, everybody in America sees that story, and it applies to almost no markets in the country. That's somebody in New Jersey who's writing an article or reading a teleprompter about the national housing market, which doesn't exist. I mean, it does, but not if you're trying to figure out whether you should be nervous or not. And there's a whole cottage industry of people that get famous in media for making people nervous about the housing market. And right now is one of those times that the market is shifting, and a lot of stats get thrown around, and you can set yourself up as a genuine expert simply by looking at what's happening locally. The data and the information that comes out of the MLS that tells you what home prices have done and how many home sales and that kind of stuff is great. But what you're feeling when you're talking to actual customers whose attitudes might be shifting right now, like today, right now, there's a shift going on in a lot of parts of the country where the buyers are getting fed up with how high the prices have gone. And that being fed up is starting to cause the standoff that does happen when the market shifts, where the sellers keep running and the buyers stop chasing. And
Yeah.
then, I mean, have you seen any instances? Are you starting to pick up on subtle changes like houses staying on the market for 2 weeks? Like, think of boom, imagine that, right?
Yeah. So a little bit. I had a client just submit an offer. We were one of 23 offers. So there's still, it really is dependent on the area, the price point. Really, I think single family homes more so here in that kind of more common price range. I think from what I've seen in a lot of agents, we thought, and a lot of cash buyers were hoping for this. Oh, I think that as mortgage rates go up, there are going to be fewer buyers looking. And it's all again property and specific market we're talking about here, but a lot of times it's just not as many offers. And sometimes, depending on the property, the location, the condition, it may be on the market a little bit longer. I'm seeing that with some properties on the MLS where some are selling really quickly, some are being staying on the market a little bit longer. But I think it's also at that point priced for 5 months ago
Right,
and not priced
right,
for the market today. And
right.
so we've had a lot of clients win multiple offer situations, be competitive, and I think they still need to be competitive now. What it's going to be like in 3 months. We're very seasonal here. And
Okay.
so, especially with most of the suburbs and single family homes, it does kind of after school registration, it can dip a little bit, number of showings, number of offers. So, I'm expecting that to happen a little bit, but we still have a lot of buyer demand. A lot of people, are leaving the state, unfortunately, but also we have a lot of people moving here from other states, from other communities, out
Yeah, it's
west.
true. I did a session a month or two ago. I don't know if you caught it. I did a national sales meeting. That's what it was, where I was showing. We were talking about this accelerated migration all around the country and how different places are activating, and sometimes they're surprising places. And I was showing a map, a census map, where you could click on a county and you could see which counties that county feeds and which counties feed it, right? So you got some people on their way out, some on their way in, and where are the relevant markets? And most of us, no matter where you are, if you do business in real estate, where people are going from. I'm sorry, where they're going to, because that's more common, right? Oh, it's Southwest Florida, whatever it is. And people know that the big high density metro areas, New York, LA, Chicago, tend to be losing people to this migration. But Chicago was showing up, Cook County specifically was showing up as a destination market from all those places. People are leaving New York to go to Chicago. People are leaving LA to go to Chicago. So,
Yeah,
um,
we see it. Yeah.
yeah, and it's interesting because it's not something that people would guess because they're headline readers, right? Um, but I like what you're saying because there's a lot of disinformation. There's a lot of armchair quarterbacks. I was in the produce aisle a couple of weeks ago, and I knew it was getting bad when I was in the produce aisle, and the guy who was putting the cabbage on the shelf was talking to the customer, talking about how housing bubble. Everybody knows it's going to be a housing bubble crash because what goes up must come down. The market's cyclical. I didn't say anything, but it's like, yes, the market's cyclical, but no, that doesn't mean that what goes up comes down. Market cycles don't mean this. They mean different things. They mean the pendulum swinging between being in command, seller being in command. Where we are right now is that houses are so in demand, no matter where you look. They're so in demand that we could see a 35% reduction in the number of buyers out there and still be a seller's market. So, rates are going up to 6%. The housing market's dead. Well, again, they say that, but it never happens because the product is houses in America, right? People want to live here. They want to live in a house. Usually, when they do get here, if they form families, they almost always do. So you're on the right track with that. And I know you know that. So that's it's good to hear. So my last kind of general question is like, how has it changed your life? You've seen a big jump in your success. I'm sure it's made you feel great, but is there anything else you can share if to inspire other people to want to make some of the same moves?
Yeah, so I admit 2019 I worked very hard, 2020, and there wasn't a whole lot of work-life balance. And I think it's important, and we've always kind of put clients first. Like okay, we'll do this. Like we'll go show this client or go on this listing appointment. And so with the processes and the systems, it really created more efficiency, like I said, which in turn created more work life balance. But at the same time, I like working and I like it. So it's not, I'm not necessarily sitting on a beach for 3 months at a time or a week at a time, but it creates, just more time in general. And I'm always, always working, and we have some people in this market that don't answer the phone after 6 or don't respond to anything on the weekends. And I'm not that type of person.
So how is doing more business? How has doing more business helped you create work-life balance? Has it allowed you to delegate? Did you hire assistant? I mean, what people would hear that and say, if you got 4 times as busy, how the heck could that translate into having more balance?
Yeah, and that's a very good point. I think real estate, it's one of those things where the more you're in it, the more you are best able to guide your clients. So for example, there are majority of agents, right, majority of agents don't do as many deals, right? It's kind of the 80-20 rule. And if I'm showing different buyers throughout the week and I'm seeing what these markets are doing in multiple offers, I can tell my client, okay, I know this home, it's going to sell quickly. This market is still very hot, getting multiple offers, et cetera, et cetera. And from the very beginning, then our offer is able to be strong. I've set expectations. I think that's important. But I think there are some people that if they're not in this as much, or they're only doing maybe a handful of deals, they may not know the market. And I've had agents when I was the listing agent say to me, what do I do in a multiple offer situation? How do I win offer? So they're not in it as much. And so, yeah, I think a lot
That's
of it
really
is
interesting.
the more you're in it, the more you're able to advise your clients one way or the other, which kind of, you don't have as much back and forth then. If you set expectations and you're upfront, okay, this is how the market is. Unfortunately, I'm going to work in your best interest. I just want to let you know that this is how it is, and we'll work together so that you're doing what you feel is comfortable. Then people know from the very beginning. And a lot of times buyers are like, okay, yeah, I know it's a good time to buy. Rates are going up. This is what I want to do. So, and then
That's
also just
interesting.
having
So
those systems too.
I was going to say, I was going to tie it back to that. So like you don't waste time is another way of saying how to tie this stuff together. You don't waste as much time as you do when you're newer. You don't waste as much time as you do when you're desperate to make a sale, right? Like there are people that won't tell a buyer what it's really going to be like, just like they won't tell a seller your house isn't worth that much because they're afraid to lose the listing or they're afraid to scare the buyer. But when you have a sense of abundance, that there's another one standing right behind them. And so I'm going to give them the right advice. If I wind up losing somebody because I was honest with them, well, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. But you're not wasting time. You've got systems that remind you what's important to do, and when you accomplish everything in your project plan, and when you're straight with your clients and you deal with them in a way where they listen to you and they do what you ask them to do, and then you're done for the day. You're really done for the day because you're not getting blown around by gale force winds pulling you different directions. You knew you got your stuff done and you can unplug. And that's really interesting. Again, I told you I always pick up on stuff I hadn't heard before, and there's a couple of
Oh,
things in this conversation, so people are going to like this.
thank you. Yeah, and it goes back to that the guidance counselor comment, and how I feel that that's part of the job too, because it's just, and I see it a lot when we have listings where a property is going to most likely get multiple offers, and other buyers, will submit an offer that's not very strong and then have to go back and do highest and best and then get their pre-approval letter updated and all that stuff. And so I have so much information that I give buyer clients, even from the beginning, and seller clients, like to make it as seamless of a transaction. And I know there are some people, and I tell people, questions are not, there's no bad questions. Questions are not dumb by any means, but I'm here to answer questions before they even have them, which then I have a lot of media resources that I provide clients. And so they're able to know the contract, know the paperwork by either me going through it or one of the resources I offer before they look at it to sign.
So you'll have a video, so to speak. You'll have a video of here's what a contract in the state of Illinois looks like, and is that something you created or you borrowed something that came out of the MLS?
No, yeah. So I have, I'm a big believer in giving clients, resources up front. So it's something I created, and I go over
That's
that with
cool.
them, and if they have any questions, we can discuss it, going over all of the different disclosures, this, that, and the other. And I do a lot of different things for clients so that they know, costs associated with the purchase.
That's really interesting. And going back to the idea that you know that you're going to have to explain to everybody if it goes through to a contract what the contract is. So why not do it one time, really clean, have it available for them to watch in advance if they want. You're yeah you the project management component of this, and if people who have not done project management may not even know what that kind of means, but it's taking some outcome and breaking it down into all its individual parts and then relating the parts together. Like, I want to drive across country. I have to put gas in the car first. You know what I mean? Like there's things that have to come before other things can actually start. Other things can run concurrently. And you can achieve deadlines. You can get a lot of variables that are spinning around, all of a sudden lock themselves into place and have a repeatable outcome. But that's really smart. The idea that you know what you're going to have to say to them, you're happy to say it to them. But if I'm entering this transaction, I'm trying to absorb every shred of information I can get as early. I'm intensely curious about every aspect of this. And so if you hit me with I'll skip watching Netflix for the next couple nights because I'm not interested in that anymore. I'm interested in learning about what's coming my way in this transaction that has me excited on the one hand, but a little bit nervous on the other hand. And then by the time you get to the point where they have to sign the contract, does that mean you've got people who are like, yeah, I got it, I know what I'm looking at, I know
See,
what
and
I'm
that's
looking
what
at.
I
Like,
didn't want. That's what I want to avoid, because I've had that happen purchasing my first property. I purchased right out of college in the LA area, and I didn't know, we weren't licensed in California. I didn't know what I was signing, and I would have loved to have resources going over the paperwork, especially because in Illinois we're a real estate attorney state. It's very different.
right, right.
And I just didn't want clients, and I tell them, you can ask me any questions. I'll go over this whenever you want. I don't want to bombard you when you go to write an offer and there's a contract and disclosures and different forms you have to fill out. And you're like, what am I signing? I need to hurry up and get this offer in. I don't want that to happen. And I think in our market, and I'm sure a lot of markets throughout the US, there's a lot of deals being canceled, buyers getting cold feet or being reactivated for different reasons. And I really want my clients to make sure they know what they're signing, make sure they know everything. So I go over it with them so that there's less room for error.
Especially now when people, yeah, now when when the way that they, this is true, but it's also exaggerated. That when you see a house you like, you have to pounce, throw everything, caution to the winds. I don't need an inspection. I just, and they dive in and they go to bed the next, and they're laying awake at night saying, what did I just do? Like, I liked the house, and then I just started signing my life away, getting prepared in advance. It accrues to their peace of mind. They can go to bed that night going, no, I did my homework on this. I did, even though I acted quick and I pounced, I didn't pounce in an irresponsible way, right? Because I did my homework in advance, and you made that possible for them. So that's cool. That's cool. Great stuff. So listen, we can wrap it up, but I wanted to, is there anything else you wanted to share? Anything I forgot to ask?
No, I mean, I think I've really been with Coldwell Banker since I've been licensed. And I think the resources, if anyone's watching this and thinking of joining Coldwell Banker, I think the resources, that's the whole reason I've stayed the whole time since being licensed, is having that background, the marketing resources and everything provided with sellers, I think is is really helpful too. And
That's great. I had a conference call about an hour ago with, do you know Amy Lerner, your field marketing
yeah,
VP? I had a meeting with her a couple of hours ago on something, and she'll be very happy to hear what you just said because she runs that team in the metro to do the marketing support. And thanks for giving some credit to Coldwell Banker. There's a lot of people over here that work really hard, that care a lot about, the same way you feel about a customer when they achieve the success, and you played a role in helping them get there. There's a lot of people in this organization that feel the same way about your success. So they're excited to see this because they didn't know nobody knew until I asked how many agents had tripled their business. They are so excited to see that, but then to actually hear you talk about how you did it is gonna light a lot of people up. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And just good luck. Stay in touch. I'll keep an eye on how things are going, and if you ever need anything, you know where to reach me.
thank you. And if there's anyone out there that would like more information, they can contact me. And
How do they contact you?
the best place is probably my website. It has everything. You can contact me, get my phone number. So the shorter version is ggroupre.com. Glockler Group is our team name.
Ggroup.com. Ggroupre.com.
Ggroupre.com. Yep.
Okay, check it out. Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.